What if hiring could be easier, more streamlined, and less time-consuming, so even when you're busy, you could still be smart about the way you hire? With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click, so you can rest easy knowing your job is being seen by the right candidates. Then, ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting so you receive the best possible matches. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you, it finds them. And it's no wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, it's the smartest way to hire. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by growing businesses of all sizes and industries to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That is right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/M&M. That's ZipRecruiter.com/M&M. One more time to try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/M&M.
With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of getting 2 W's on the road or catching the home run ball without spilling your drink. Double boom. Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
I'd like to think we are the Sultans of Swing, but we're just moving on Golic and Wingo. Glad you're with us. Presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests join the show. Pennzoil Performance Line. That is Dire Straits with the Sultans of Swing right there.
Yes, it is.
As they are one of the bands that have just been elected into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It is.
Yeah, they got it. Yeah, they got it.
And what's interesting is Reeves, whatever, tweeted to us that Dire Straits song was awful. Sultans of Swing, what we just or Romeo and Juliet, much better. Y'all are better than that.
No, we're not really.
Hey, we didn't elect him into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all right? Yeah. We're just announcing who was into the Hall of Fame.
Blame Cliff if you don't like the music.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cliff's getting all the praise, so just blame Cliff every once in a while if you don't like the music.
Not our fault.
We don't control that.
We didn't do it.
So at Rives or Reeves, your beef is behind the glass.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's not with us.
We did nothing wrong.
Annette also says, thanks for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame list. Still shameful that Soundgarden still hasn't been nominated.
Not nominated. They weren't of the other group. I mentioned some of the nominees who didn't make it, which included the LL Cool J's, the Radioheads, the Zombies, Eurythmics, Depeche Mode, Kate Bush, Jay Giles Band.
Yep. Judas Priest.
Some that were, nominees but did not make it. You're going into the Hall of Fame, the award for early influence, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Then the performer category, you have Nina Simone, Moody Blues, Dire Straits, The Cars, and Bon Jovi. That's next April 14th in Cleveland at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's always going to be a great night.
By the way, Danny agrees with us. He says NWA in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yes, it should be the Music Hall of Fame, not Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
but there's but then there's like popular music, country music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of different kinds. I get it. So I know because you say rock and roll, you think of only certain aspects of music. But I think people all understand it and get it. But so I don't see a name change coming anytime soon.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, do not,
because they're going to listen to our little show and say, and
the point is, move along.
Thank you very much, and we will move along. Coming up later this hour, Robert Griffin III. Former Rookie of the Year in the NFL in 2012 and a former Heisman Trophy winner at Baylor University will join us.
You had him on NFL Live yesterday,
on NFL
right?
Live yesterday. Okay. We talked a little bit about why he isn't playing this year and what his plans are for next year. We'll get into that with him. And he has some interesting takes on the situation in Philadelphia with Carson Wentz and what's going on there. He'll join us. And then Charles Barkley will join us in the 9 o'clock hour, as will Todd McShay. First post-college football regular season mock draft.
Mock draft. One of probably, 6 or 7 before the actual draft itself.
I believe the actual number is 7,433.2.
But we are going to hold him to this mock draft.
This is the one.
This is the one we will hold him to.
Well, we always talk about that with Todd. It's the same thing you and I have talked about. If you drafted now and then you drafted in April, how different they would be. It really is amazing. But, that with what Adam Schefter has been hearing, what David Pollack had to say about Baker Mayfield. I mean, look, there's some juice there. We'll see how much what he does in the college football playoff as well as the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see in this mock draft how many quarterbacks he has in the first round.
Boy, we could have 5.
Yeah,
that would be
going to be interesting.
Really make that first night really, really interesting. We have other things to get to, and let's do it with...
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not,
it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, we start off the top in the NBA. His first game since May 14th when he was in the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference semifinals and then got hurt. Kawhi Leonard scored 13 points, but the Spurs lost to the Mavericks. But Leonard was a team best +8 in the 16 minutes he played.
Yeah, just a touch under 16 minutes, so they're working him back in, get in that shape again and get acclimated to the minutes. LaMarcus Aldridge led the way with 23 points, 13 rebounds. He's been leading that team in scoring and rebounds in the absence of Kawhi Leonard. So they went 19. We just talked yesterday about how they went 19-8 without him. Third in the conference, did so well without him. Get him back
with him.
And now they're 0-1 with him.
It's Kawhi Leonard's fault.
Obviously, that will not hold. That this team will find a way because that's what they do. That's what a Greg Popovich team does. You trust him like you trust a Bill Belichick.
Correct.
That they're going to work through all the things that they have and for when it counts the most, be ready to go.
And it may count a lot in their next game. It's in Houston on Friday, and it's on ESPN against the West leading Rockets. So we'll see how much they put Kawhi in for that game, which will be against a very tough opponent. We continue.
Off the top.
LeBron James doing LeBron James things. Leads the Cavs over the Hawks, 25 points, 17 assists. The 17 assists, by the way, Mike, tie for a career high.
And add 42 points off assists, so he had a 67 total points, of the third most he's had in a game this season. They hit 23-pointers. That's a season high. They had a season-high 35 assists. It's their second game with at least 30 assists. The other came against the Hawks as well. And while Kawhi Leonard is the big story as one of the top players in the league, coming back and getting back into the flow of things, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and what they are trying to do, they need their puzzle pieces as well. And one of them came back last night, and that would be Tristan Thompson. He's been out since November 1st. Due to a calf injury, played just 6 minutes in his first game back. But in Cleveland, it's the oldest team out there, so you're always looking for that piece of the puzzle to help you. Tristan in the paint to help, so and getting him back and kind of getting him acclimated again, and will hopefully help them down the road.
Again, so lots going on there. We continue off the top.
Off the top.
With the unicorn, Kristaps Porzingis dominated the Lakers, scoring 37 points, 11 boards, blocking 5 shots, and making 5 3-pointers in the Knicks' overtime win. According to the Elias Sports Bureau, he's the first player in NBA history to have 35, 10, 5 blocks, and 5 made threes in a game.
Really incredible what he's doing at 7-3. Just amazing. It was actually Michael Beasley, though, in this overtime game, had 12 of the 13 points in the fourth quarter and overtime. He was 6 of 8 from the field after going 0 for 5 in the first 3 quarters, so he came up in money time. But Porzingis led us to a question. Trey asked it early on at Golic and Wingo. Would you rather have right now Kristaps Porzingis or Ben Simmons? You know what that vote is?
Yeah.
50-50.
Really good question.
You can't. We call Porzingis the unicorn for what he can do at 7'3", but how many 6'10" point guards have we had?
Not many.
The tallest, what we're talking about is Magic Johnson, and he's one of the greatest players to ever play. Ben Simmons, of course, missed his first year because that's what you do with your 76er. You missed your first year. That's kind of how it goes.
Right.
But he is...
That's part of the process.
He is as advertised right now. I mean, with how he plays as a point guard and that big, they are a couple of freaks. It is incredible to watch. And we were all talking about when my son was here as well. You almost can't appreciate what guys that size do unless you're there watching them, because you watch it on TV, they all kind of look, the same size because they're playing against one another. But, man, when you see them up close and just how big they are and how athletic they are, it's incredible.
It really is, because everything's to scale on the court.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For example, you look at little guys in the NBA, a guy like Chris Paul, and then you see him in person and like, wow, you're taller than me and bigger than me, and you're the shortest guy on the court.
Exactly,
I mean, it's taking things out of the diorama, which is the court, and putting them somewhere else. It really is. It puts it in a different perspective.
So
when you see
keep going on that vote right now. 50-50 of who would you rather have right now, Porzingis or Ben Simmons? Interesting question. Good question. Obviously has everybody split right now.
And we finish up
off the top
with good news in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers has been medically cleared to return to the Packers this week after missing the past 7 games with that broken collarbone on his right collarbone, or his throwing collarbone. Packers are 7-6. And really play Carolina this week. That could determine greatly whether or not they're in the playoff hunt or not.
So this is interesting on the, for the outside looking in. Well, even on the inside, quite honestly. Listen, you have a shot at the playoffs. I think it's still kind of a long shot. I even think with Aaron Rodgers, I would favor the Carolina Panthers the way they're playing right now, even though Aaron Rodgers coming off injury can be fantastic. He's proven that in the past. So I would play him now. You would play him now. But then I brought up the question to John Gruden. He, of course, would play him now. I said, okay, what if he plays and they lose? You have 2 more games, basically meaningless. You're not going to make the playoffs. Do you not play him? And I understand what he said, because his example was, he said, I asked Derek Brooks before our last game on the plane, we were coming home from our second to last game, hey, we basically have wrapped everything up. Do you want to sit this game, and chill out and get ready for the playoffs? And he said Derek Brooks looked at him like he was going to beat him up. Yep. So, A, there's bumps and bruises, but Derek Brooks wasn't coming off just getting hardware put on your collarbone. And B, I would whenever I hear you ask the player, I always think, well, that's a waste of time, because 99 out of 100, I'll never say completely 100, is every player going to? Most players are going to say, I want to play. So isn't that where the coach should say, I know you want to play, but for the good of this team for next year, if for some reason Green Bay were to lose this week and you're not going to make the playoffs, hey, Aaron, I know you want to play, but the best thing for us is to probably sit you down and get you ready for next year.
Well, why would that be the best thing for the Packers, though? If they lose that game, if Aaron Rodgers, you're fearing him getting hurt again.
That's the only thought. Yes, he's just coming off the. Now he is. There is part of you that says, "Wait a minute, he's medically cleared to play. Right. Play him." Because the first thing I would ask the doctor is, does he have any more chance to re-injure that in this week or next September? And if the doc says, listen, if he lands on it the way he lands on it this week or next September,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So then you probably say, just go play. But there is part of you coming off of all that time off. If you're not going to be in the playoffs, you say, why risk it? Players always going to want to play. So asking a player is almost a futile thing, right? Because they're going to say, of course I want to play.
I think a lot of people are looking at what happened to Tony Romo in 2015. I almost said Tony 15.
Yeah.
2015, where he broke that collarbone in a Week 2 win in Philadelphia. And then because the division was terrible and nobody was really pulling away, even though I think they were 3-8 at the time, they still mathematically had a chance to make it into the postseason, and they got him back for a Thanksgiving Day game against the Carolina Panthers. He was a little rusty, and then I think it was a Luke Kuechly hit that he re-broke that collarbone. And that really was sort of the end of the Tony Romo career, right? Because he came back from that, and the collarbone was healthy, and then he got the hit in the preseason game against Seattle up against the Seahawks in the Great Northwest, and that hurt his back, and that led to the Rain Dakota Prescott show, which is where we are now. Right. I just would imagine, unless the doctors would say, because the bone isn't completely healed, or maybe he needed another 3 weeks. But if he's out there, he's out there.
Well, that's the thing. If he's medically cleared to play, they're saying you're healthy enough to play. So you'd imagine if he's going to go back out there, he's going to be back out there for the rest of the season. We have a couple of questions on the Golic and Wingo, our Twitter page. We're turning into the Le Batard show as far as all the poll questions out there. We told you about the one, who would you rather have right now, Porzingis or Simmons? That's 50-50. Another one we asked because Devin Hester officially announced his retirement, and he has the most non-offensive touchdowns in NFL history with 20. He passed Deion Sanders, and he's ahead of Charles Woodson as well. They have 19 and 17, respectively. Is he a Hall of Famer? Right now, 53% say yes, 47% say no.
I'm surprised by that, actually.
Does it seem to you like the more info we pull up, the more it goes into the no category?
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised that more people are saying yes than no.
Yeah.
It is a very specific skill set that we're talking about here.
It is.
But it's a game-changing skill set.
It is. Punt returns, he's just at 12 yards. That rates 8th overall. Kickoff returns, he's at right about 25 yards. A kickoff return, that rates 67th. Overall. And the other question we have up, because we named the groups or the people that are going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of which Cliff had basically none of the music ready for that. We had about 5 or 6 people going in, and Cliff
is killing the show. Clearly,
he maybe had music.
He's the anchor.
He maybe had music for 2 of them. We say, "Do you got Moody Blues?" No. "You got Dire Straits?" No. "We don't have anything." No. So we put up there grading Cliff today, and we went with emojis. Quite simply, thumbs up, thumbs down. That's how it went.
And how's it going?
My gosh.
Can you not see anymore?
54%, 53% it just went to. Dropped a percent while I was saying that. Still thumbs up.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Even on his bad day, he's the best part of the show.
Still getting a thumbs up.
We
How about
stink.
that?
Just want you to know. The rest of us stink.
There you go.
It's Cliff's world. We're just living in it. All right, so we'll have those throughout the show, and you can hit us up on our Twitter feed at Golick and Wingo. But now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for
Fill in the blank with Golick and Wingo.
I wonder if any of these music's been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Any of the music, like for the off the top or fill in the blank.
That's when the Hall of Fame will be closing down.
Let's say, sir, no,
Yeah.
please. Do not come near our museum ever again. Okay, we start with a question that a lot of people in Philadelphia are wondering. With Carson Wentz out, blank are now the favorites to win the NFC.
Wow.
So you can go Vikings, Rams, Panthers, Saints, Seahawks, or Philadelphia.
There's part of me that wants to stay with Philadelphia. There really, really is. But if I go another team, I would probably, because he's been playing all year, it's not like he got thrown into it at the end. He's got two good wide receiver weapons in Thielen and Diggs, and a tight end in Rudolph, a great red zone target, and then they have an excellent defense. I know they just got beat, but I think overall I would say the Minnesota Vikings, if I were to pick a team.
I can't disagree with that pick. I think they're the only team in the NFL that still has a top 5 offense and top 5 defense. And when you talk about balance, and you talk about if you have to mitigate some issues with the quarterback, not that there's been any issues at all so far with Case Keenum. I mean, look, people are getting after him about that game. Well, at one point, 3 of his starting 5 offensive linemen were out.
And that showed. I mean, that's something they have to get healthy or be able to work around, because I did pick him as a quarterback of a team over the likes of a Cam Newton, a Drew Brees, a Russell Wilson. So who do you go with? Actually,
right now, after that game, the Vikings are outside the top 5 in total offense in terms of yards per game. They're now 7th, so that dropped a little bit. I think I might still go with Philadelphia.
Part of me really wanted to,
and I'll tell you why. Because they're going to have, it looks like, barring a meltdown, because they're 11-2. They're probably going to get home field advantage. They got the Giants. They're at the Giants, then they got the Raiders on a Monday night and home for the Cowboys. They win 2 of those games. We're looking at home field advantage for sure. You know what? The way they've played this year, the running game has been such a big part of their success. I know that Carson Wentz has set the franchise record for most touchdown passes in a season, but if you look at a lot of those games, it was all set up by a really powerful running game, which allowed Carson to make some of those throws. And I don't think Nick is going to make as many of those throws, but when you have that 4-headed beast at running back, they're 2nd in the league in running behind only Jacksonville, who rely heavily on Leonard Fournette. They got 4 different guys that can do it. I think that's going to help them a lot. I think that's really going to help them a lot. I may lean still towards Philadelphia. As Fill in the Blank is brought to you by Mahindra Tractors and Utility Vehicles. Mahindra USA, the world's #1 selling tractor. Okay, Antonio Brown is setting the world on fire.
He is.
We pretty much know that. The last non-quarterback to win an MVP was Adrian Peterson, I believe, a few years ago, but it's 2012. But it's basically been a quarterback run in and around that. So Antonio Brown has a blank chance to win MVP this year.
Would you say right now the only 2 quarterbacks that you would put on the list to be MVPs would be Tom Brady and Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
Is that where you'd go right now?
Keenum's going to get some votes, and it'll depend on how he finishes up these last 3 games. Because Carson Wentz, I think, was the prohibitive favorite.
I agree with that. You have Russell Wilson leading the way. Wentz led at 33, but as far as healthy playing quarterbacks, Russell Wilson is 29-11, Tom Brady 27-6. So you look from that, you look at those 2 guys. Antonio Brown leads the league in reception. He has 99 receptions.
It's crazy.
Off 160 targets. He leads the league in yards. He has over 1,500 yards. And he's 2nd in touchdowns with 9. DeAndre Hopkins has 11. So you look from that standpoint. Then you go to rushers. Le'Veon Bell leads the league with over 1,100 yards rushing with 7 touchdowns. So is he in there? Kareem Hunt has 1,000 yards. I don't think he's going to be in that.
So what percentage would you put it at?
Man, since Wentz went out, you have Tom Brady 2 so-so games. Russell Wilson, they're coming off of a loss. Antonio Brown, man, I want to give him a decent shot. I really do. This could be a year. I'll say 25%.
25%?
25%.
Yeah, I'll go maybe 33% because here's the issue. Look, Tom Brady passed Ben Roethlisberger for yards in the Monday night win, but right now Ben is 2nd in passing yards, just about 115, I think, behind Tom Brady. Le'Veon Bell leads the league in rushing yards, and Antonio Brown leads the league in receiving yards. We've never had a season where on one team you had the passer with the most yards, the rusher with the most yards, and the receiver with the most yards. And I think because of that, that may hinder
that take away
Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
And his MVP candidacy. The other thing there is he's scored a bunch of touchdowns late, but he had very few for a majority of the season. They're coming in bunches now for Antonio Brown. Look, if he has 3 against the Patriots and maybe another 2 or 3 down the stretch, you could make the case. But I think because there's so much balance on that offense, I don't think he has more than a 33% chance of doing it. We go on to fill in the blank, and we've talked about this a lot. One word to describe Devin Hester's career is?
I'm going to use 2 words. I'm going to go away from this.
The question was 1 word.
Okay. I can't figure out 1 word that means field flipper.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's an actual. It's a compound word.
Okay,
we'll make it a compound
field
word.
Flipper because you average 12 yards of punt return, depending on where you catch it, 25 on a kickoff return. More really on the averaging that. So obviously he had some less than that, but way more than a few more than that. We know he has 20 touchdowns, but even if he's not scoring touchdowns, he's getting longer returns. That's going to flip the field, and that's what you look for out of your special teams. Whether you're trying to bury someone inside the 10 or inside the 20-yard line or be able to bring it back and give your offense good field position, that's something I think he did extremely well.
I'm going to go with interesting because in the context that we're talking about it, it's an interesting discussion, about whether or not something that somebody does a thing better than anybody else, although in a very limited sort of window, for lack of a better term, or how much it actually plays a part in a game. But if you hit it, it changes everything.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Rocking through on Golick and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And then we are joined in the studio every once in a while by the likes of greatness. RG3 joins us in the studio to give us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. I got to say, you got to be a little intimidated right now. Baylor winner, Heisman Trophy on the right of you. Just Baylor grad on the left. But we're here.
We're Baylor grad
down
on the left.
Yeah. Know my place, know my role. Know my place, know my role.
Welcome to you.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
And I like Matt Rule. I know it was a tough year for them, and certainly there's some things to overcome out there, but I do like Matt Rule, and I do think he can get things going there. I want to add, there's no way this fits to you because you are a great athlete already. But as I just said in that sports center, to be something like a Porzingis, I would probably take a LeBron for one day to be able to be 6'8", 260, 270 and do everything that he could do, do anything. I'm trying to think of a person for one day that you would want to be in another sport that you would. I know some people say like Tiger for one tournament in his heyday. To shoot that well.
I would have that feeling in my hands as I hold the club to know I could flight the ball any way I wanted. Sign me
who you would want to be for one day and be that great in a different sport than what you play.
That's a very interesting question.
That's a radio question.
That's a very radio question. I think everybody wants to do something that they're just not very good at. So for me, it'd probably be either tennis or soccer. So I'd either want to be Roger Federer or Messi.
See, there you go.
Those are two very good ones.
You know what
very good
ones.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to. You want to do what you can't do, and those are two things.
That's exactly right.
That's why they put me on radio. I want to do what I can't do.
Yeah.
Robert Griffin III with us here on Golick and Wingo. Okay, unfortunately for you, you're very familiar with what Carson Wentz, the Eagles quarterback, is going through. You suffered an ACL tear at Baylor, and again in 2012 in the wild card game against the Seahawks when the knee gave way after being injured in that hit that Haloti Ngata put on you.
Correct.
So what advice would you give Carson about coming back from this? Because, again, it happened in December. he wants to be ready for week 1. You were all in for week 1 in 2013.
Correct.
What would you tell him about what to expect and what's real and what's not?
He got injured a little bit earlier than I did. What I would tell Carson is do exactly what he said he's going to do. Continue to work hard, come back stronger. He has that belief. He knows why he plays the game. He knows everything that around him is stable. His team is stable. His organization is stable. So I don't think there's a problem with him wanting to be ready for week 1 at all. Just like when I was coming back, I didn't think there was a problem with me wanting to be ready for week 1. But his job is to do everything he possibly can to get his body right. And the coaches and the organization's job is to say, look, we're going to pump the brakes and not bring you back this quick, or say, look, he passed all the tests. The doctors say he's good in 9 months. Let the kid go.
So a couple of things I want to ask on that. First, and I've said this to people who would ask, a doctor can tell you you're physically ready to go.
Correct.
How about the mental hurdle?
Yeah.
How is that hurdle of trusting what the doctor said and all the rehab you did to actually go do that on the field?
I think, they say playing the game is 90% mental, so the mental aspect of that is extremely huge. Mm-hmm. And as a player, nobody can tell you how you feel. You see guys a lot of times pull themselves out of games or put themselves on IR because they just don't feel right. So I think that mental aspect for him is going to be those second reaction plays when he gets back out on the field, those things that aren't planned. In rehab, you can take a 3-step drop and roll to the right and make a throw because you're going to do that.
And nobody hitting you.
Nobody hitting you. But when you get on the field and you have a guy like a Haloti Ngata or, for me, DeMarcus Ware, these guys are coming at you, those are things that are not planned. You have to react. And that is where the knee injury really comes in because you can't see your knees.
Right.
You can see your shoulders, your collarbones, and all that, but you can't see your knees, and you got to trust that it's going to be there. I think he'll get there.
So that leads me to the next question. So now you get over the mental hurdle. Now it's the physical aspect of the game again. And forgetting like pocket passers because they're not really leaving the pocket anyway. For guys like yourself, like Wentz that will move when he has to, for quarterbacks that will move, run a Cam Newton, if you get a major injury, is there any thought process to, I have to stop doing some of that? I have to keep doing some of that, somewhere in between? How do you go about that?
I think you cannot do that. For Carson and Deshaun Watson, what they have to realize is their ability to move is what makes them great right now. So use that as long as you can. I'm 27. I can still move around. Those guys are younger than me. They can still move around even after they come back from the injury. So they have to make sure that they continue to utilize that. Over the years, you will develop, and you'll become better as a pocket passer. And then you won't have to use your legs as much, but you want to keep that threat. It's what allowed Philly throughout the whole year to use those RPOs, those run-pass options, to make those easy throws, those easy slants with the backers coming up and play-action passing going deep like Deshaun Watson was doing.
So real quick on that, sorry, Trey, real quick,
Trey's not here.
I'm sleeping.
The RPOs or the read options that Wentz would do, should they just not do them? And because there's no threat, Foles is going to keep the ball. So do you have to? Is it become more about just the play calling as opposed to the player?
Obviously there's some things that Nick won't be able to do. That Carson did.
I mean, who's thinking he's pulling the ball and running?
I don't think anybody's ever called Nick Foles a fleet-footed, quick release quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's what Carson can do. But there's many ways to skin a cat. So they can keep the RPOs in. There's just not going to be as much quarterback run RPOs.
That's what I meant more of the read option.
It may be handoff or throw as opposed to handoff, throw, or run.
Right.
And I think you can still run those, and they're built to do this. But, they can also go under center and just hand the ball off to Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount and be fine.
They got 4 running backs, second best rushing attack in the NFL. Robert Griffin III with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Want to talk a little bit about something that was a bright spot for the Cleveland Browns, and that was the return of Josh Gordon, a guy you know well from your time at Baylor.
JG.
He obviously has had a lot to deal with, and he sort of laid it out there in that one interview where he was dealing with these substances his entire life. He's only 26 years old. What do you think the upside still is for Josh?
I mean, JG is part of the reason that I ended up going to Cleveland. I really believed in Hugh Jackson and Pep Hamilton and the vision that they had, and I know he wanted me to be there this year. I just didn't fit the analytics. But JG is
the analytics guy isn't there anymore, so don't worry about it.
Hey. JG is a guy that the sky is the limit. I think everybody says that. If you meet him and you knew him while he was at Baylor or anybody that's come in contact with him, he's a great guy. He's not a guy that's, just out there doing bad things. He's made mistakes and he's had problems. with addiction. And I think that's a serious issue. It's not something you just push him to the side and say, we're going to give up on you. So I'll never give up on Josh. I think that now that he's back playing, that's the best thing for him.
You know, he went on in great detail, talked about going back to his days in college where he was selling, and then he went in the pros, and maybe even in college, I can't remember, but I definitely remember in the pros he either had a drink or a hit before every game. Were you guys aware of all of that at all that was going on at Baylor?
This is the beauty and the curse of it.
Yeah.
We knew what Josh was going through. We tried to help Josh. Yeah. But Josh got to a point now where he wanted to help himself. And that's where I've been most proud of him. Because he'll tell you, I've told him things in the past that he didn't want to hear.
Right.
He just didn't want to hear him. And you know how it is. You send somebody a text message, they don't respond because you're trying to be honest with them and be there for them. And that's why Josh is a brother to me. You know, he'll always be family because, you know, I care about the guy. And I'm excited for him. I'm happy that he's back out on the field playing. And I think that him coming to the realization that what he was doing was going to kill him before it helped him. And now he's making the right steps to get himself back out on the field and ball out.
Let's hope that, I mean, he's been getting a few chances. Let's hope, you know, it sticks and he has way more life to live than football. And God knows he's an unbelievable talent on the field. Let's just hope off the field goes well for him as well. As far as your position, the quarterback position, RG3 joining us again, Heisman Trophy winner at Baylor, Pro Bowler 2012, Rookie of the Year in 2012. So coming from college to pros, it obviously worked well for you, that transition. Right. How do you look at the quarterbacks now? You know, they're talking about the possibility of maybe 5 in the first round from bigger guys like the Darnolds and Rosens and Allens to the Baker Mayfields, a little smaller on the smaller size, of how they transition to the NFL and how the NFL helps them transition. Can you take us through where that is now?
I think it all depends on where you land. I think it all depends on what coach you end up with. You look at Carson; they said, you know, he needs a big pocket to throw the ball, and Philly, you know, put together an offense for him that allowed his talents to be showcased. Baker Mayfield's a shorter guy, but I'm a strong believer in if you have success in the college level, you can be successful in the pros. It's all about getting in the right situation, getting with the right team, and I think whatever teams draft these guys, they got to be sold on them. You know, you can't draft a guy and have half the organization not like him and half the organization love him, especially if you're going to give up picks or draft him high in the first round. But these teams, you know, they'll figure that out. I think when you have split organizations, things, you know, can go downhill extremely fast. But they're all talented players. And I know when they get into the league, they'll be very excited, and it's a dream come true for them.
Hey, look, stick around. We got a lot more to talk to you about. We roll on Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Delighted to continue to have RG3 in the studio with us here, and Robert Griffin III will join us also today on NFL Live, part of his 2-part stay here, the ESPN car wash, where you go through a million things, as we call it. Whenever people come up here, we're going to get every single ounce of you we got. We're going to put you on every show and do all that. So you've been prepared for that, right?
I've been prepared.
Okay.
I've been ready for this. It's great to be with you guys.
It is great to have you here, but you're here because you're not playing in the NFL in 2017. You had some opportunities.
Correct.
You told us yesterday on NFL Live, but you felt like you didn't find the right fit. What about those opportunities didn't feel right for you?
You know, I feel like I need to be with the right coach and the right organization. And the opportunities that I mentioned yesterday, it's not that it wasn't the right coach or the right organization. It just wasn't the right fit for me at the time. You can't go somewhere where you're going to be competing with 4 guys and you're the last guy in. There's no way you're going to get those opportunities. That's what initially happened for me. And I had to make a decision and say, look, do I want to just get in there and, you know, just be another guy and be around, or do I need to be patient, wait, and trust in God's timing? So I decided to trust in God's timing, and I knew that wasn't the right move for me at the time. But that's why I'm sitting here today, and I understand that.
So when you get back in and get another chance, outside of the injuries, which are very, very tough to control, the on-the-field X's and O's, the way you play the game, the way the NFL is being played, what are the biggest things you have learned and can use as learning tools for your next opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's mostly the preparation that goes into being a quarterback in the NFL. It's time sensitive. You have to put in the work to make sure that the product that you put out there on the field is sufficient to what you can do. And I think as a player, you have to know who you are. So I know what my weaknesses are, I know what my strengths are, and I've worked on those weaknesses to make them my strengths through this time of being out of football and just watching the game from a different perspective. You have to love it. When you're away from it, if it doesn't hurt you, then you don't love the game. And I love the game, and that's why I'm here today to talk about it, to show you guys, show everybody that I'm still locked in and I'm ready to go. But also at the same time, I miss it.
Do you need to be or want to be with someone at the start of the off-season program, which would be second, third week of April, need to be on the team then?
Yeah, I think that would be ideal. You want to get in, you want to get to know the coaches, you want to get to know the team, be able to go through a whole off-season program and be able to put your best foot forward. I think that is obviously a goal for me. There's going to be a lot of change this offseason in the NFL, and it's just about making sure you get in where you fit in.
Robert, when people say you want to make sure you're with the right coach, a lot of people would listen to you say that and say, well, is he talking about his situation in Washington with Mike Shanahan where it didn't feel like it was always the right fit between you guys? Is that sort of part of your framing here of that answer?
No, I think, in 2012 when I came in and we had all the success that we had and we won the division and all the accolades that came along with that, it was the right coach. People got to realize Mike Shanahan was my dream coach. I was a Broncos fan growing up, okay? These guys are the guys.
In Copperas Cove, Texas.
In Copperas Cove, Texas. And I'm a military kid. So when you start watching sports, typically you tend to teeter towards the teams that are doing well. And at that time, the Broncos were everything. Right. So I was a Broncos fan. Mike Shanahan was my dream coach. So it was unfortunate for me to see what ended up happening there, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. In 2012, they catered the offense towards me. We ran plays that guys on the team didn't even understand what the plays that we were running, but we practiced them all off season and we did those types of things. And I need to be in a situation where it's going to bring the best out of me. That's allowing me to use not only my arm and the deep playability, but also to use my legs. So that's more so what I'm talking about. It's not taking a shot at anybody.
For looking at the league as a whole, with all the attrition that has gone on with the injuries we've seen, where do you see the teams right now as the top teams, the teams you think legitimately have the shot to go all the way?
Whew. I mean, I think, if you look at it this week, we were talking about this, yesterday, Trey, that the teams that lost this past week are the teams that are typically the ones that everyone's looking at to do well in the playoffs.
Right.
And the team that won in Philly, they lost their quarterback, but they still have the team around Nick Foles to help them make that Super Bowl run. I think you can't go wrong when you pick the Patriots, when you pick the Steelers, when you pick Philly. But there's some dark horse candidates too, and nobody wants to see Jacksonville. Nobody wants to see Carolina because if Cam Newton's on, they're hard to beat. If Jacksonville's defense continues to play the way
beating the snot out of you,
nobody wants to see those teams. So, the Giants, they go 9-7, they go win the Super Bowl. You never know what's going to happen in the playoffs, and it's all about when you get there, who has the least amount of weaknesses.
We got just about a minute left before we got to get out, but you said a dream. Mike Shanahan was your dream coach because you grew up as a Bronco fan. In a dream scenario in 2018, Robert Griffin III is playing quarterback and competing for the number one job where?
Whew, I mean, it'd be hard for me to put a finger on which team that would be, and it's due to all the change that's gonna happen this offseason. Right. But the dream situation is to be playing football. Yeah. That is a dream situation.
Well, look, we've loved having you here for the last 2 days, and we'll see you on NFL Live later on today.
Right.
But
they're working you, man.
They are working me, but hey,
you
guys work well together, so
Well, that's because we hate each other, and it's the natural conflict that comes out.
Typically, that's what happens.
And I got off the TV side so I can dress down.
By the way, this part I like. Yeah. Once it gets warmer, flip-flop Fridays.
Oh,
baby.
shorts and flip-flop
Fridays. Little zinc oxide on the nose.
The margaritas come out.
That's Wino Wednesday.
Yeah. You're wearing
Thirsty Thursdays.
My guy's wearing flip-flops. No sliders? Okay.
We are going to make it casual. We hope to eventually have so much food in here, vermin are running free in the studio.
There you
go. Eventually you're going to be wearing mandals. I can't believe it.
I got about 8 pairs of mandals. I got it.
Of course you do.
RG3, Thanks, I'll see you on NFL Live later. Coming up last hour, Charles Barkley and Todd McShay on Mock Draft #1. Stay with us.